Hello, it's Dmitry again. Today we'll be reading something a little bit different. We'll be reading the Apocryphal Book, the Book of Giants. Now, this is going to be in the literal standard version, and I'm reading basically from a book right now. There's other versions as well, of course, of this book, and it is an apocryphal book, which means that it is kind of relating to biblical literature, but it is not part of the official canon of the Bible, either in the Protestant canon that exists, or in the Catholic Church's canon, or for that matter, the Orthodox Church, Eastern Orthodox Church, the Oriental Orthodox Church, etc., etc., does not accept this as being part of the Bible. But it is a book that relates to some of the same themes, particularly regarding the time before the Great Flood. Now, I'm going to have a little bit of commentary initially that's provided here in this book, and then I'll give some more commentary potentially at the end. But here's what they write before the actual beginning of the book. Book of Giants. Once thought to be nothing more than a 3rd century Manichaean corruption of biblical and Jewish legends, a primordial Aramaic form was found among the Dead Sea Scrolls. This much older Book of Giants was composed hundreds of years before Christ's first advent at the latest and shares Enochian similarities. In the Living Standard Version reconstruction of the DSS, Dead Sea Scrolls Book of Giants, instead of presenting each fragmentary section, the narrative is pieced together in a plausible chronological order by chapter, so some fragments are grouped together. The fragment identifiers are listed before each set of verses belonging to that fragment. And so I'll be reading through the fragments, I guess, in that sense. I'm not sure how, how flowing it is, how choppy it is, I guess. I'm not quite sure. I've not read it yet. And it is traditionally understood to be derived from Mani, who's the progenitor of the creator of the Manichaean religion. However, it is also speculated that and I guess is what this presents here, the idea that it's actually much earlier. Well, the idea that it is actually, his material is derived from a much earlier source material that he's working with. So let's just go read it now. I can give you some additional commentary later. Which, to be fair, I'm not super informed about the book. But just needless to say, it is a apocryphal book, not part of the canon of Scripture. The rebellious watchers, messengers, descend to earth, bringing secret knowledge and wickedness. Their hybrid offspring are giants. So that's just like a little bracket. I want to specify where brackets are, where the brackets are, and we're to like summaries of the chapters, and then the actual text itself. So that's part of the bracket. So chapter 1. They knew the secrets of ... sin was great in the earth ... and they killed many ... they begot giants ... End of chapter 1. Okay, great. Brackets. The messengers observe all the creatures on earth, including human beings. Let's see, chapter 2. Okay. Chapter 2. Everything that the earth produced ... the great fish ... the sky with all that grew ... fruit of fruit of I'll just read it like this. Fruit of the earth and all kinds of grain and all the trees ... beasts and reptiles ... all creeping things of the earth, and they observed all ellipses every harsh deed and ... utterance ... male and female and among humans ... Okay. I'm not quite sure if it'd be better just to read the Turfon's version, which is the one from Mounty. Or might be more put together, I'm not quite sure. My thing here says, the fragment identifiers are listed before each set of verses belonging to that fragment. Okay, so I'm not quite sure if this is a more less composed material or not. But let's just continue with this one. The messengers choose 200 specimens from each of the variety of creatures on which to perform ungodly acts. Chapter 3. 200 donkeys, 200 mules, 200 ... rams of the flock, 200 goats, 200 ... beasts of the field, from every animal, from every bird ... for interbreeding. Okay. End of chapter 3. Giants, monsters, and this is the bracket here. Giants, monsters, and corruption fill the earth as a result of angelic interbreeding. Chapter 4. ... They defiled, ... They begot giants and monsters, ... They begot, and behold, all the earth was corrupted, ... With the blood and by the hand of ... Which they did not suffice for them, and ... They were seeking to devour many ... The monsters attacked it. Gotta admit, it's a little bit hard to follow through what they're talking about, to be honest with you. Chapter 5. ... Flesh, ... All ... Monsters ... Will be ... They will arise ... Lacking in true knowledge ... Because ... The earth grew corrupt ... Mighty ... They were considering ... From the messengers on ... In the end it will perish and die ... They caused great corruption in the earth ... This did not suffice to ... They will be ... Okay. The giants are so use brackets again. The giants are troubled by dreams and visions which hint at a coming judgment on them. In one dream, a stone tablet is drenched in water and emerges with only 3 names still inscribed, presumably the names of Noah's sons. End of bracket. Chapter 6. ... They drenched the tablet in the water. ... The waters went up over the tablet. ... They lifted the tablet out from the water of ... Okay. Chapter 7. ... The vision is for cursing and sorrow. I am the one who confessed ... The whole group of the castaways that I will go to ... The spirits of the slain, complaining about their killers and crying out ... That we will die together and be made an end of ... Much and I will be sleeping in bread ... For my dwelling, the vision, and also ... Entered into the gathering of the giants ... Oh yeah. And he said to Maweh ... Without trembling, who showed you all this vision, brother? ... Barakel, my father, who was with me ... Before Maweh had finished telling what he had seen ... Said to him, now I have heard wonders. If a barren woman gives birth ... Thereon Oya said to Heya, will be destroyed from on the earth and ... The earth. When ... They swept before the giants ... Your strength ... Thereon Oya to Aya ... Then he answered, it is not for us but for Azael, for he did ... The offspring of the messengers are the giants, and they would not let all their loved ones be neglected ... We have not been cast down. You have strength ... Okay, it is legitimately hard to follow, to be honest with you. Let me check if the other version is more... no, it is not. No, I'm looking at the other version right now on a PDF. Okay, so I'm looking at the PDF right now. It's saying, okay, damaged text, fragments from the Kawan, Middle Persian. It looks just as you could imagine. It is very similar in situation. Why? I guess they just have fragments of it. Let's continue. Brackets. A giant boasts about his strength, but realizes he is not stronger than the faithful messengers of heaven. One of the speakers is apparently the giant hybrid Gilgamesh from Sumerian myth. Wow, that's interesting. Talk about a crossover there, People talk about crossovers like, oh, they're doing like a whatever kind of thing, like a television crossover. Gilgamesh, Enoch crossover, apparently, Chapter 8. I'm a giant. Sorry, ... I am a giant, and by so this is chapter 8. ... I'm a giant, and by the mighty strength of my arm and my own great strength ... Anyone mortal, and I have made war against them, but I am not ... Able to stand against them, for my opponents ... Reside in heaven, and they dwell in the holy places, and not ... They are stronger than me ... Of the wild beasts has come, and they call me in the wild man ... Then Oya said to him, I have been forced to have a dream ... The sleep of my eyes vanished. to let me see a vision. Now I know that on Gilgamesh Well, that's certainly interesting. Crazy name drop, to be honest with you. I'm not sure how exactly it works. I mean, it makes sense in a certain sense to me. Like, I think I'm not going to get into it. I'll get into it later. Oya has a dream in which a tree is uprooted, but 3 roots remain. This is presumably the same message as the dream of the stone tablet. Chapter 9. Three of its spots, while I was watching, there came, the roots were moved into this garden of all of them, and not, Brackets again. Bothered by the dreams and visions, Oya suggests the message is actually judgment on another group. So chapter 10, concerns the death of our souls, and all his commands. And Oya told him that Gilgamesh said to him, and it was said concerning that the leader has cursed the potentates. And the giants were glad at his words. Then he turned and left, Brackets again. Dreamers recount yet more dreams, first to the assembly of monsters, and second to the assembly of giants. Chapter 11. Thereon 2 of them had dreams, and the sleep of their eye fled from them. And they arose and came to and recounted their dreams, and said in the assembly of the giants and the monsters, in my dream I was watching this very night, and within a garden there were gardeners, and they were watering, 200 trees, and large shoots came out of their root, and all the water and the fire burned all the trees, They found the giants to tell them of the dream, Brackets. Malwe is petitioned to seek Enoch for an interpretation of the dream, and then flies to him with the request. Chapter 12. Go to Enoch, the noted scribe, and he will interpret the dream for us. Thereon his companion Oya declared this, and said to the giants, I too had a dream this night, O giants, and behold, the ruler of heaven came down to earth, and such is the end of the dream. Then all the giants and monsters grew afraid, and called Malwe. He came to them, and the giants pleaded with them, and sent him to Enoch, They said to him, Go, to you that, you have heard his voice. And he said to him, he will, interpret the dreams, how long the giants have to live. Chapter 13. He moved through the air like strong winds, and flew with his hands like eagles, He left the inhabited world and passed over desolation, the great desert, and Enoch saw him and hailed him. And Malwe said to him, here and there a second time to Malwe, the giants await your words, and all the monsters of the earth. If had been carried, from the days of, there, and they will be added, we would know from you their meaning, 200 trees that came down from heaven. Enoch grants the request and sends Malwe with a stone tablet containing the interpretation. Chapter 14. The scribe, Enoch, a copy of the second tablet that Enoch sent, in the very handwriting of Enoch, the noted scribe, in the name of God the Great, the Holy One, to Shemahazah and all his companions, let it be known to you that not, and the things you have done, and that your wives, they and their sons, and the wives of their sons, by your licentiousness on the earth, and there have been on you, and the earth is crying out and complaining about you and the deeds of your children, and the harm that you have done to it, until Raphael arrives. Behold, destruction is coming, a great flood, and it will destroy all living things, and whatever is in the deserts and the seas, and the meaning of the matter, on you for evil. But now loosen the bonds binding you to evil, and pray. Chapter 15. Great fear seized me, and I fell on my face. I heard his voice, He dwelt among human beings, but he did not learn from them, And that is the end of the Book of Giants. It's not very long. It probably was a lot longer at some point. So I'll read a little thing for you right here. And I'll just read the sort of little summaries that they give for the chapters that might better kind of explain it in a way that's a little bit more coherent and cogent. So let me read all the bracket sections for the chapters. The rebellious Watcher's messengers descend to earth, bringing secret knowledge and wickedness. Their hybrid offspring are giants. The messengers observe all the creatures on earth, including human beings. The messengers choose 200 specimens from each of a variety of creatures on which to perform ungodly acts. I don't know if that's PG or not. I'm not quite sure what they mean by that. Presumably it is not. Well, what do they say? Is this for interbreeding? So, okay, we know what's going on with that. Okay. Giants, monsters, and corruption fill the earth as a result of angelic interbreeding. The giants are troubled by dreams and visions which hint at a coming judgment on them. In one dream, a stone tablet is drenched in water and emerges with only 3 names still inscribed, presumably the names of Noah's sons. That would be Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Or really, you could say Japheth, Shem, and Ham would be maybe a little more chronologically correct, I guess you could say. A giant. Well, I mean, Shem versus Ham. Ham was Ham, the third-born son, and Japheth is consistently considered the first. I'm not going to get into that. Whatever. Anyway, a giant boasts about his strength, but realizes he is not stronger than the faithful messengers of heaven. One of the speakers is apparently the giant hybrid Gilgamesh from Sumerian myth. Oya has a dream in which a tree is uprooted, but 3 roots remain. This is presumably the same message as the dream of the stone tablet. Bothered by the dreams and visions, Oya suggests the message is actually judgment on another group. Dreamers recount yet more dreams, yet first to assembly of monsters and second to the assembly of giants. Maway is petitioned to seek Enoch for an interpretation of the dream and then flies to him with a request. Enoch grants the request and sends Maway with a stone tablet containing the interpretation. And again, let me read chapter 15, which is the final part that remains. It says, "Great fear seized me, and I fell on my face. I heard his voice. He dwelt among human beings, but did not learn from them." And that's really the end of the Book of Giants. It really is a kind of fragmented section. It's crazy that it was in the Turfan in the stuff being sent around by the Manichaeans, and it was also found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. But apparently, it's still pretty fragmented. We don't have a lot of information on it. But I'll read some stuff for you here, and let me just get clarification. This is a little bit of a detour. Okay. Yeah, typically it's considered Japheth, Shem, and Ham is the birth order. So Japheth is the oldest, and then Shem, and then Ham is the youngest. Okay. But anyway, let's go back into this a little bit. I can read you the Wikipedia page, or at least read you some of the stuff from the Wikipedia page. Since before the latter half of the 20th century, the Book of Giants has long been known as a Middle Iranian work, which some scholars now believe was written originally in Eastern Aramaic, that circulated among the Manichaeans as a composition attributed to Mani, a Parthian citizen of southern Mesopotamia, who appears to have been a follower of Alkasai, a Jewish Christian prophet and visionary who lived in the early years of the 2nd century. 2nd century AD, okay. Some scholars, concordant with supporting evidence for the ancient sect's geographical distribution, have posited both genetic and ritual custom similarities between the Ecclesites and the earlier Second Temple Jewish sect of the Essenes. Yeah, and here's the thing. Okay, let's go back. So let me just continue reading this. So during the 20th century, a number of finds shed considerable light on the literary evidence of the Book of Giants. 1943, a publication by Henning of the Manichaean fragments from the Book of Giants discovered at Turfan in western China, that is now called Xinjiang province, have substantiated many references to its circulation among and use by Manichaeans. Further identification of the Manichaeans' edition of the Book of Giants was revealed in the 1971 when Joseph T. Millick discovered several additional Aramaic fragments of the Enochic works among the Dead Sea Scrolls. Finding that the fragments bore close resemblance to the Mani's The Book of the Giants, he concluded that the Giants was originally an integral part of the first Enoch itself. Okay, so they're saying it's basically a combo essentially, which makes sense because the content's very similar. It's kind of dealing sort of period before the flood, that kind of thing. And in fact, Enoch is in the book itself, right? These fragmentary scrolls in Aramaic, which represent Enochic tradition that was likely introduced to Mani in his sojourn with the Ecclesiastes. Yeah, I mean, Alkacites. Well, I mean, it just makes sense. Like the idea that he's pulling from an older set of literature. I wouldn't be surprised that it is sort of this sort of milieu of probably Jewish literature that was going around, like First Enoch, for example, in the sort of centuries leading up to Christianity. That he would be inspired by that. Of course, he's later down the line, a few centuries down the line later, but that he is, inspired by that when he has his own rendition of it in the Turfan, or in the Manichaean book, which was found in Turfan, I should say. So that's kind of the big stuff on that, actually. Yeah, I mean, this is a big thing too. There's some scholars who like to present the idea that actually Genesis is pulling from a much earlier tradition, and that's why it's cryptic about certain things about Enoch. I contend as a Catholic, and otherwise I would think most people would still contend that a lot of literature about Enoch that we think about today, First Enoch, for example, and of course Second Enoch and Third Enoch, and all the literature they talk about when it comes to the sort of literature about Enoch and literature about like Metatron and so forth, all this stuff is coming around basically in the centuries, a few centuries before leading up to Christianity. This tradition about the names about angels is not really strong until a few centuries before the advent of Christianity, is an example for, And so if you think about it, Genesis is much older than that. It's just for reference for people. And so it's more like, it is correct to say that Genesis has some things in it that are kind of like a little cryptic, they would say. It mentions Enoch being translated into heaven. It mentions a sort of period of time in human history where humanity is very wicked, and then the flood destroys everybody, and it talks about how, there were these sons of men and sons of God, and they had children, and so forth, this kind of stuff. And then this sort of literature developed centuries later to help explain some of this material. That is to say, what does it mean when it says that there were giants in the world? What does it mean when it says that there were sons of men having relations with the daughter? The sons of man having relations with the daughters of men. What does that even mean? Like, what does that mean? This kind of material. Like what? And the same. What does it mean when Enoch was translated into heaven? Like, it's very briefly mentioned, and so basically this kind of literature exists, Book of Giants, the Book of Enoch, and so forth, to help kind of flesh that out a lot. It's not that Genesis is, how you say, what's the term for it? Is just a summarization of an earlier tradition, because there doesn't seem to be any sort of earlier tradition, specifying Enoch, for example. It seems to be that all these people saw that and they said, wow, there's not a lot of stuff on Enoch. There's not a lot of stuff on this sort of antediluvian period. And so they just kind of invented their own literature about it, essentially. And it was very influential. First, Enoch is very influential, but for a certain period in history. But that's kind of it. It's not canonical. It is written much, much later. So, yeah, it is what it is. I want to see if there's any sort of interpretation that they provide here. Let's see, about the contents of it. I'm not seeing a whole lot. I mean, it's basically talking about what we just went over. So I can read you the Wikipedia's description of the Dead Sea Scrolls version, which I would assume is probably, well, I mean, it would be the earlier version of this text. The Book of Giants is an expansive narrative of biblical story of the birth of giants in Genesis 6, chapter 6, verse 1 through 4. In this story, the giants came into being when the Watcher sons of God, who were, per the story's corroborative Jubilees, Jubilees chapter 4, verse 15, Jubilees chapter 5, verse 6, God originally dispatched to earth for the purpose of instructing and nurturing humanity in proper ritual and ethical conduct to do what is just and upright upon the earth. They had sexual intercourse with human women, who then birthed a hybrid race of giants. These watchers, Grigori, and giants, Nephilim, engaged in destructive and grossly immoral actions which devastated humanity, including the revealing of heaven's holy secrets or mysteries to their wives and children, and to mankind generally. When Enoch heard of this, he was distressed and petitioned God, who was in his long suffering, and by divine revelation and counsel called Enoch to preach repentance unto them, and the earthly races might avoid God's wrath and destruction. In his mercy, God chose also to give the fallen watchers an additional chance to repent by transmitting dreams to several of their giant sons, including two brothers named Oya and Haya, who relayed the dreams to an assembly of their Grigori and Nephilim companions. This assembly of watcher giants associates were perplexed by the dreams, so they sent a giant named Malway to Enoch's abode and to the places of his preaching, for Malway had been instructed that he must first hear the prophet speak before petitioning him for the oracle. Enoch, in his attempt to intercede on their behalf, provided not only the oracle, but that the watchers and the giants had requested, but also twin tablets that revealed the full meaning of their dreams and God's future judgment against them. When the watchers and giants at last heard heaven's response, many chose, in their transcendent pride and arrogance, rather than to turn from their evil ways, to act in defiance against God. The Qumran fragments are incomplete at this point. The Qumranic edition of the Book of Giants, like its Manichaean counterpart, affiliates the same as the Sumerian hero Gilgamesh and the monsters Humbaba with the Watchers and Giants. Okay, interesting. So, I mean, the one issue, and that's probably, whatever, but the one thing with that also is that it kind of makes sense in the sense that we talk about, let's say, for example, in the Paradise Lost, for example, he kind of makes a comparison or analogy or parallel, you could say, between the Nephilim that are produced from these angels in this period before the flood with the sort of Greek heroes of the heroic era, who are these sort of demigods and stuff like that. And it's actually a very fair comparison. Here's these masterful, powerful men because they have some sort of divine parentage, that kind of thing. So there's a certain obvious analogy to that. Of course, the thing is that the heroic age is that age before the Trojan War, and in the case of Gilgamesh, Gilgamesh was alive after the flood, right? I don't know enough about Humbaba. Let me go look at that briefly. I think I'm not sure about him, but definitely with Gilgamesh, he is one of these sort of powerful men of history, you could say of mytho-history, that came after the flood. And so it doesn't totally work, if that makes any sense. It's sort of like, it kind of makes sense, but doesn't necessarily make sense in the context of what we're talking about, because he's a post-flood figure. He's a post-Diluvian figure. Anyways, I just wanted to read that. It was a relatively short section. I knew it was going to be short. I just wish it was a little bit more coherent. But anyways, if you like that, you can subscribe for more or something like that. I might read the Book of Jubilees at some point, and the book of First Enoch at some point as well. And if you're listening to this, you've been this far, well, thank you for listening. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you, and goodbye.